Welcome to Mineral Talks Live, the monthly live mineral webinar that brings you in-depth and in-person interviews with mineral people from around the world. Mineral Talks Live is brought to you by a joint effort among the Mineralogical and Geological Museum at Harvard University, the SMMP, and Blue Cap Productions. Tune in on the first Wednesday of every month and stay connected to your mineral world. Now, broadcasting live from beautiful Honolulu, Hawaii, the land of aloha, ukuleles, and shakas, this is Mineral Talks Live.
Happy New Year, everyone. Today is Wednesday, January 3rd, 2024, and we want to welcome you to a brand new year that we hope turns out to be much, much better than 2023. You're watching Mineral Talks Live, and we want to thank all of you for your continued support through our now 82 episodes. I'm your host, Brian Swoboda, and together with my two absolutely fabulous and timeless partners, Dr. Raquel Alonso Perez and Dr. Eloise Gayu, we are the Mineral Talks Live team, bringing you this live Mineral Talk show on the first Wednesday of every month. Mineral Talks Live is a majority female-owned partnership that brings you monthly interviews with some of the best curatrix, curators, collectors, dealers, miners, researchers, artists, and media people in the mineral world. If you happen to have missed any of our past interviews, no worries. There's a complete list of all those episodes, along with links to those interviews at the URL located at the bottom of the screen. One of the things that makes this program unique is that not only is this a live show, but it's a show where you get to interact with our guests. All you have to do to participate is to type your comments in the chat or the Q&A features, both of which are located at the bottom of your Zoom window. The chat feature allows you to instantly send messages to everyone watching the live show, so we encourage you to be as active as you'd like in the chat while we're talking. And while our guest and I generally don't see your messages during this conversation, throughout the show, both Raquel and Eloise will be monitoring the chat areas and will be very active there. Occasionally, they may even interject a question or comment to us during the interview, so don't be shy if you have a question. Also, when you log on, we ask you to send a message to everyone letting us know where you're tuning in from so that we can see how far around the world we're reaching. Now, if you happen to have a question directly for our guest, or maybe it's a bit more detailed or needs a bit of a longer answer, go ahead and use the Q&A feature, and we'll get to those questions at the end of the show. Finally, towards the end of the program, you'll see a window pop up on your screen. This is our Quickfire 5 question segment to see how well all of us know our guests. This is just a fun way for us to get to know our guests a little bit better. So go ahead, play along, and you may discover a nice way to include yourself in a conversation the next time you see our guest at a show. With all that being said, it's now time to start our show. Today's guest is coming to us live from Seattle, Washington. Mural commission in Tucson that we're all about to see a lot more of. Her work has been seen all over the internet, and she was one of the featured artists at the 2023 Munich Show. And her painting is the cover artwork on the 2024 Mineral City Show Guide. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to our show, Mineral Artist Rebecca Johnston. Rebecca, how are you today?
Hello, Brian, and everybody out there. I am doing wonderful. I'm so excited to be here today. I've been looking forward to this for months now since you invited me onto the show, and I am just so excited to be here and chat about minerals and all the nerdy stuff that we all enjoy. So thank you again for having me.
Well, Rebecca, thank you so much for coming on the program. We're really excited to have you on to learn more about you and the work that you do. Now, you're based up in Seattle. So is that where you were born and raised?
Actually, no. I've been in Seattle for, almost 20 years now. I moved here in 2003, I believe. Yeah, and I graduated high school in 2002. So I'm aging myself here. And then I moved out of, so I was born and raised in Idaho, a small town called Twin Falls, Idaho. It's southeastern Idaho there. And grew up there until I was about 13, moved to another small town called Pocatello, Idaho. And that's where I stayed until I was 18 and graduated high school. And then I moved.
Pocatello, that's hilarious. I used to do a bunch of projects up in Montana, and Pocatello was the town that I'd stop and I'd leave Los Angeles like 4 a.m. and I'd drive all day and I'd get up to Pocatello and I'd spend the night there. I've never heard anyone else mention Pocatello before.
No one knows Pocatello. So when I find someone who knows, it's like, what?
That's hilarious.
That's really funny that we have that connection.
Totally.
How did you feel about Pocatello? Were you just there for like a night?
I'd get in, I'd pass through Salt Lake City right around rush hour dinner time. And I think it was like another hour or so to Pocatello. And I would just roll in there, grab something to eat, and crash at a motel somewhere. So I didn't really spend much time there. And then I'd get up early and move on to Bozeman the next day. But I remember it being very quiet and very quaint. I preferred staying there versus Salt Lake City. And, I remember it quite fondly.
Yeah, it's a great little town, but, there's not really much going on there. So I had to get out.
So from there, you moved to Seattle?
So from there, I actually moved around a little bit. I actually moved to Montana for a little bit with my sister in Great Falls. I was there for just a few months. Just trying to, I moved to Kansas City, Missouri as well with one of my other sisters for a summer. So I was just kind of trying to get out and try different cities. Kansas City was really great for me because it was the first city that I did any art or music in. So I actually am a musician as well. I pretty much spent all of my 20s and early 30s performing music and playing guitar. My mom is a guitar teacher, so she taught guitar.
So do you sing also, or do you just play the guitar?
Yeah. I used to do solo shows with songs I've written. So I've done a lot of stage performance, and I've been in a couple of bands too.
Oh my God. So Rebecca, if you have a guitar handy, we're going to have you sing us something to close out the show.
I don't know about that, Brian. It's been a while. Now I'm just art, really. I haven't done a lot of music lately, but I do want to.
It could be Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star if you need it to be.
Okay. Well, we'll see. We'll see how twisty my arm gets.
Okay.
But yeah, so I jumped around a little bit. I did, like I said, in Kansas City, I kind of did my first open mic and performed some very horrible songs I wrote, as an 18-year-old. Can't expect too much, but
full of angst. Yeah,
full of angst, and like I kind of did like jokey songs, so it was like stand-up meets songs. I don't know. I was young. I was trying things out, but it was great.
You're exploring. That's great.
And it was like my first big city experience. So that was really cool. And I, worked at a bakery there and ended up actually working in the food industry for quite a while in different bakeries and was a barista. So that kind of started all of that. And I really wanted to be in a big city that would be more friendly to art and music, because I've also been an artist, since I was a kid. So
what brought you to Seattle?
So then Seattle, I ended up going back to Pocatello and getting my first apartment there in the downtown area. And my friend moved in with me, and, I worked there for a little while and decided it was time to just move out to a big city. So I had some friends that I met through the internet back in the early days, it seems like. And I kind of just went out on a whim. I had my guitar, I had $100 in my pocket, and a one-way ticket to Seattle, and some friends I didn't even know in person that were going to.
No, I'm sorry. That's a song. I think Jules sang that one, right?
That is definitely a country song or something.
Right.
Yeah.
$100 in my back pocket, guitar, and half a tank of gas.
Yeah, barely. So, I just kind of risked it all and was like, I got to go somewhere to be creative. And I just came out. Oh my
God, I love it. I love it.
It's a little risky, but I'm okay now. So,
I think those risks are the most important things to take. I mean, I tell everybody that when I started Blue Cat Productions, I had no money. And in order for me to film What's Hot in Tucson, which was the first program I ever did, I had to stay in Tucson for a month, and I couldn't afford a hotel. So I ended up living in a tent out in the Catalina Mountain campgrounds for 1 month, and that's how I was able to start What's Hot in Tucson. So yeah, you take these risks and you hope they pay off. So I love your story because we're cut from the same cloth.
Right. I mean, you got to follow your heart and your gut, especially when you're a creative person. There's just no other way. I mean, I didn't really have a choice in my heart.
Totally.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so let's start the interview.
Now, sorry, I kind of took us a little around the world on accident, but
I love it. So, I usually start the interview by asking our guest when they started collecting, but you have kind of multiple stories that I kind of want to explore here because you've got the collecting part, but you also have the artist part. So I want to explore both of those, but let's start with the collecting part since this is a program called Mineral Talks Live. Tell me about your first exposure to minerals and what mineral it was and how it affected you.
Yes, so I actually know the mineral very well, and I actually have it here with me, which is amazing.
You have to see it.
I'm surprised I didn't lose it in moving around so much, but well, it's unfortunate that I didn't get into minerals when I was younger because I grew up in Idaho and I lived in Montana, all these amazing places that I now am dying to go dig in, because I rock hound as well. So
yeah, you're a field collector. I've seen photos online.
Yes, for sure. I'm so addicted. So going back to actually Salt Lake, I was there visiting some of my family still lives in Utah, my sister and my mom. So I was there with them and we went to a world market, some sort of a world market type store, that has all sorts of candles and Zen instruments, all sorts of cool stuff, from all around the world. And I don't remember, it might have been the World Market, but I don't know the name of the store exactly. And
the World Market, wasn't that like grown out of Pier 1?
Something like that, but it felt less corporate than Pier 1.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
It might have been more of a local shop, but just like that, like that.
Yeah.
Of course, I mean, this was a long time ago. This is probably when I was like 18. So, and then I saw this little tiny glass case they had, and they had all these little rocks in there. And I saw this piece of malachite, and I didn't really know much about it. I just knew that I was drawn to that because it had just the color of malachite is so enticing and you just want to like touch it, but you probably shouldn't touch it too much, right? So anyway, so I felt
at least don't lick it.
Yeah, don't lick it, which we can talk about that whole licking thing too.
That's when the show took a turn.
Yeah, right. So anyway, I found this piece of malachite and then there was another little peacock ore, chalcopyrite next to it. And I fell in love and I was like, I need to have those. And they're right here, actually, tucked away. So they're not big or anything. And I remember the salesperson who sold me the malachite just warned me basically to wash my hands or not keep it in the kitchen. He was like, because it's not polished, it's just raw. So right. I can show you. This is the little malachite that started it all.
Super. I love it.
Isn't it cute? And it does some like purple, coloration on it. Some oxidization, but it doesn't have any azurite. But yeah, it's just a really cute, cool malachite. And then this is just, your basic little peacock ore. Nothing special, but, it just drew me to them. And I just thought, wow, if there's more of this I can explore, I'm definitely going to be interested. And it kind of spiraled out from there. I started, I think a lot like others started collecting little stones and different things and even like collecting, things out of yards and, you just kind of are drawn to the pretty shiny things. But I got way more serious into mineral collecting when I went through college. In 2013, I started at the program that I work for, which is the Apparel Design and Development program at Seattle Central College. So that's when I started my college journey there. And then my graduate collection in 2016, which was a 3-part garment look collection. all inspired by rocks and minerals. So I kind of got really obsessed. I wanted to do all these different textures in my fabrics that mimicked the minerals and the geology. So that's where it all started to take off flight. And then I went to my first mineral show. I guess it would have been 2016, probably the end of 2016. There was a big mineral show at a college up north from me. And I mean, it just opened the floodgates, Brian. I could never turn back after that. We met one vendor, his name was John, and he's just like a part-time vendor. It's not like his career, it's just his hobby. And he told me and my boyfriend Adam about a place to go dig called Hanson Creek. And I don't know if you've heard of that place, but it's really, really well known around Washington. It is a public dig area, so we were told about that, and we instantly knew we had to go explore. It was winter then, so I think we had to wait a couple of months till the spring melt. And me and my boyfriend just got all of our supplies together. We got so excited. I mean, it was one of the best days of my life. The first time I went.
I love it.
I will never forget that day. I was like singing songs the whole way up in the car. It was just like, oh, could life get any better than this, And, I didn't know anything. I didn't really know how to do it. I had this like ridiculous backpack on that had like the metal frame around it. And I was like trying to weave through these trees. It was special, but I'm learning. So next time I got a new backpack that was not so cumbersome. But yeah, I mean, the first just like visual of broken crystals in the dirt was a game changer for me, and started rock hounding, and then got obsessed with buying minerals mostly through Facebook and online. And now I have a humongous collection that, has taken all my money. So
superb. I love it. And I love that the thing that really kind of lit the fire was going to a mineral show. And I think that's important right now in this time where we're effects of the pandemic, and so much has shifted online, including this show, which was a response to the pandemic. But we have always maintained from the very beginning the importance of visiting mineral shows to all of our audience. And here is a perfect example of how you went to a mineral show and it was like throwing gasoline on your fire.
It really was. And that's where I started making the connections with people in the local mineral community. And really, I mean, we went to every mineral show after that, basically. Anyone we could get to, didn't matter what time we had to, get there, we made it happen. So now I know like which types of mineral shows we like. And I'm also involved in the Seattle Mineral Market. I do all of their Instagram and promos leading up to the show. So starting now, I'll be doing a lot of the promo for that show coming up at the end of May. So that's exciting too, which I'm kind of jumping ahead a little because that's going to be more the art side of where I get involved with Seattle Mineral Market. So,
well, I mean, but that's a great seg talk about art.
Okay, I didn't want to jump the gun.
That you had this incredible talent, and how did it manifest in your life?
Yeah, so I've been drawing since I was a little kid. It was one of the first creative outlets I ever had. I really always liked to draw like still life or from real life. I like to look at something and draw it. So it makes perfect sense that now I'm a photorealistic mineral artist. I really like working from a reference photo. It's just the best way. I do enjoy having, say, the specimen and a reference with me because you can't see everything that's hiding in the minerals in just a straight on reference. But I digress. So the art, I think, kind of leaked through when I was designing my final collection for my graduation of my garments, because they were all mineral inspired. So I was drawing a lot of garments that also looked like minerals. So I started drawing minerals with garments, and then I just started doodling minerals a lot. And then when the pandemic hit, and I was pretty much shut down, right? We were all staying home and I couldn't go to work. I really got obsessed. Oh, did I lose Brian?
Yeah, it looks like Brian left, but don't worry, I'm here.
Okay,
We're here. Everyone is here. He will come back.
I'm here, right? Okay. Brian's coming back, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yes, no worries.
Sorry, I got a little sidetracked.
So during the pandemic, you started working more on your paintings at home?
Yes, so I started following a lot of artists on YouTube, and I really wanted to, I've always done line drawings and more of like an illustrative style to my artwork. I really wasn't a realistic artist. So I really was interested in learning more about realism. And so I started doing portraits with realism and learning more about how to render things realistically and to sort of slow down when you're creating, because I'm very much, I don't know, I'm very quick when I create. I like to start something and then finish it kind of in one go, which kind of made the mural a perfect project for me, but a little overwhelming. But realism helped me to just slow down and kind of relax a little bit. I'm a very, like, a little high strung, a little bit, OCD. And and I'm very, like, try to be efficient in a lot of ways and things I do. And so realism definitely was a different challenge for me to just slow down and be able to start something and then take a break from it and come back and work on it. That is kind of a new concept to me. And it's been awesome. I mean, I gotta say, I really enjoy the process of taking time to create something. Welcome back, Brian. We missed you.
So Brian, perfect time, because I'm dying to see how was your career with the painting. So you started with watercolors and then moved into different type of painting. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so when I first started my realism journey with portraits, I started with pencil and graphite. So I did a lot of charcoal and black and white portraits, and then I experimented with colored pencil too. I was kind of trying to experiment and see which mediums I liked. I have always been a little shy about painting, mostly because I have like carpal tunnel and I have a shaky hand. So painting always seemed kind of daunting. Like once you put, a paint line down, that's that. And so with pencil, I felt a little more secure. I could kind of like stabilize the pencil and you can make corrections, you can erase. With paint, it's kind of like you just have to keep adding layers to correct something. So I was a little afraid of paint for a while. But then when I started drawing more minerals, I started, following other artists like Tama and Ksenia and Maren Westphal. And they all do watercolors so beautifully. And I was just like, I have to try. Like, I have got to try watercolor, because you can't achieve the same textures with pastel pencil, which is my favorite medium. So pastel pencil, which I use a soft pastel, not an oil pastel. So it's really powdery. But that is my preferred medium. However, I started doing some watercolors, and that really opened up a whole other field for me. And I got really into that. I really love watercolor, great for transparency and just different, like, fine details. I find now it's great having options, because I would always probably choose to do watercolor when, say, I'm painting a tourmaline versus pastel, because watercolor gives that perfect translucency, that kind of glassy feel, where pastel, you got to work a little harder to get that. You have to draw exactly what you see in the reference. You have to put in those backgrounds to get the transparency. So yeah, it's just an interesting switch through the mediums. And of course, when it came to getting the offer for the mural, I then had to learn how to do acrylic painting, because I never really did. I've done some crafty painting, but I just started acrylics.
Yeah, that you also got the inspiration from the other females that have been new into the industry also of painting. That's really...
And I love that. I didn't really know much about mineral artists when I started drawing minerals. And then actually one of my friends went to Tucson, met Tama, and was like, oh, my friend Rebecca, like you two have to meet. And so me and her became online friends. And now that friendship has definitely grown, and we have some ideas for collaborations and things coming up in the future. So, I mean, it's just so exciting to like bring the mineral art community together, because I think it's more new, it's up and coming. There's a lot of people that I'm still discovering, and it's so exciting. I think that there needs to be more.
I'm totally with you, because in the past, especially after Munich, after this year's exhibits, we saw these big artists, and there were few in the past, but now all of a sudden is this blossoming field of new painters, and I think it creates a stronger community, if you wish. So yeah, Brian, would it be possible to put some of the images of the paintings? Is your back?
I know. Are you?
Okay, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay. Let me bring up. Are we looking to bring up some of the samples of your work, Rebecca?
Yes.
Okay. Let's start with this guy.
Oh, yes. So this one was this. So when I first started drawing, I kind of would just, search on the internet or look through my mineralogical records, which is where I first started drawing references from, is just looking at mineralogical record and being blown away by the imagery and having to try drawing. This image popped up on my feed from Rory Boyan, who posted this for sale, this fluorite from Hasty's Quarry in Illinois. And I was just blown away by the photo itself. I'm often taken by a photo, and that's when I know I have to draw it. And that was one of them. And I just saw the photo and thought, I have to draw that. So I reached out to him, and he was like, yeah, I'll send you the reference. I just sold the piece, but I'll send you the reference. And he sent me a video so that I could capture all of the angles and the little hidden details. And yeah, this one was probably about 20 hours. It's not huge. It's 11 by 14. So about this size down here. This is actually currently on display at Rocks on Ravenna. It's a new local rock shop that just came up in our neighborhood. So super exciting. We've been collaborating with them, and they have some of my stickers and a few originals hanging up there. So yeah, this one was great. This one's all soft pastel on pastel mat. And for those who don't know, pastel mat is a specialty paper made specifically for pastels. It's got like a sanded, rough texture, so it makes it possible for me to layer over just a million layers. Basically, I could take a dark black and fill in that sheet and then put bright white on top of it, which is something you can't really achieve just on flat paper. So that is my ultimate favorite preferred medium is soft pastel.
That's great, because I wanted to ask you about that. I had seen online that you were using this sanded paper, and I didn't know if that was more to pull out a certain texture, since you had talked about things being very textural to you earlier, or if there was a more functional reason. And it sounds like it might be a little bit of both.
Most definitely. Yeah. And like with my backgrounds, like on that one, I like to kind of put in a little moodiness, that actual layout I did also for this wolfenite that's behind me, sort of a similar glow.
Okay. Yeah.
And then a little reflection. And this was the first one I did that with. And it felt like I had set the mineral in like another planet, and it was kind of like shining against the landscape. So that's kind of the inspiration I had for the backgrounds. And I
love it, because lots of times we're looking at minerals that are basically floating in space, which is one way to do it. The other is a lot of times some of the really great photographers, they have the reflection of the image down in the on the kind of air blasted glass that they're using, which is really cool. And then they position the light. So you're kind of doing that exact same thing as a artistic approach, but you are focusing a little bit more on that center line to create a horizon, which, you know, as you say, it does kind of create the imagery of something floating right out in orbit, and that's the edge of the planet below.
Yeah. So, you know, I kind of since I'm doing such a photorealistic rendering, I like to get creative with my backgrounds, basically, because I'm kind of, you know, I mean, there's creativity, I would say, in the rendering, but you know, it's almost more technical, that side of it. And then the background's where I play a little bit and put sort of my flavor or whatever, my spin on things. And, you know, they're not all that way. Sometimes I just put a little diffused light in the background, or, you know, I'm still experimenting. It's always fun. But I love it.
I love that sense of experimentation around you, always trying out new things. You have a photo above your left shoulder that I'm going to pull up now. Tell us about this.
Yeah, so this one is actually from my personal micro collection. So I'd show you the specimen, but you wouldn't be able to see it. It's microscopic. So I started collecting micros through Tom Johnston. He's a dealer and collector on Facebook, and he started to release his micro collection this past couple of years. And I ordered a couple of them just to see what they were about, and I got a little microscopic lens for my camera. I mean, it was cheap. It was like $10 or $20 or something, and it hooks onto my phone. And when I got my first set of micros and put that camera on there, I was floored. I was just going to be obsessed now. And I started buying micros like crazy. And I have not enough yet, but I have about 250 micros in my collection.
So you're just starting off.
Yeah, exactly. I had a burst really where I bought all of those. And then now I'm like, okay, hang on, hold down.
Right.
Then I got obsessed with Arango, or, you know, something else came along. But I still have a lot of my micros I haven't even explored yet. But I did this micro drawing. This is a Clinoclase from Nevada. Okay. I did this one along with some micro wolfenites, which are actually around here. I have them hanging up. These all were showcased in Reed Allen's showroom last Tucson show. Which I gotta give props to those folks who hosted my artwork last year at Tucson. It really, I mean, I don't know where I'd be today without that. So Zach Bell, Rocky Critchbaum, and Reed Allen all had my work in their showrooms, and I actually made pretty much all the watercolors just for Zach Bell's showroom. And then I had pastels in Rocky's, and then this mini micro collection in Reed Allen's showroom. So it was really awesome exposure. They all had prints and stickers for sale at the last show. And yeah, it really helped me branch out a lot. So grateful to them.
I love it. Going back to the actual painting here, one thing I really appreciate about this is the very shallow depth of field that we typically see in micro photography. You have kind of recreated it here in your piece of art. And you said this was a pastel, right?
Yeah, those are pastel pencil. Yep. And that's one of the funnest things I think about the micro drawings is putting in that depth of field, blurring out those edges and stuff. I actually really, really want to do another micro series this year of my collection pieces, because they are so fun to render. So fun. I can show you like this one. I apologize. I was going to maybe remove the glass from these to make them a little easier to see, but we'll see what we can do. So this one too. Oh boy. There we go. Turn it a little bit. So you can see how all the crisp details just right there on that wolf, and everything else kind of fades around to the edges. But
yeah, I could see both the foreground and the background kind of are faded out, and that wolfenite crystal with the specular highlight really just jumps out.
Little buddy. But yeah, so I love micros, and I think the best way to see them, right, is to blow them up. So
absolutely, yeah.
My way to see some of my micros without having to bust out the microscope.
All right, let's go to this painting. I think this was one that was this in the Munich show?
No, it wasn't. That was actually a commission for the Gavish family. So Joe Gavish, they have a mineral business, so they're mineral dealers. His wife Heather wanted to commission this piece. This is one of his collection pieces. You know, the fluorite's about that big in real life, and of course I was like, heck yeah, that fluorite is amazing. So Lead Hill Mine.
You've done a fantastic job. I love the backlighting that you have on this. You know, we were talking earlier about the work that you do on the background. We have less of the horizon here, but it seems almost more like a spotlight behind it. And it really brings out the color zoning in that top fluorite crystal. I mean, it really is just incredibly illuminated.
Yeah, that was one of my favorites. Just the colors in that fluorite were so fun to play with, and like all those little maroons in the peaches and stuff. I mean, it's just so fun. And again, the background was just, I kind of just go with what the mineral is telling me it wants as a background. So
now, was the reference material for this the actual fluorite, or was a photograph?
It was a photograph. Yeah, it was a photograph. And then I also had them send me a video just so I can see all angles. Even though I'm pretty much sticking with a certain reference photo, I want to know what's going on behind the scenes there, because there's details that may make more sense when I can see the whole mineral. And, you know, when you see that mineral just without backlighting, it's just a dark little fluorite, you know, and you pop that light behind there and there's a whole other universe inside, which is why
exactly. That was going to be my question. In the source photograph, did it have that backlighting in there to kind of illuminate the crystals like that, or did you suss that out from the videos that you saw?
It's a little bit of both. So the lighting of the crystal was pretty similar to the drawing, but the picture he sent was like him holding it with the flashlight behind it, you know, so the background is all interpreted, you know, just
superb.
Yeah.
Superb. All right, let's stick with fluorites. And this I know was in the Munich show. Tell us about this beauty.
Yes, this is from the collection of Herbert Fink, and it is an alpine fluorite from Austria. So that's one of his collection pieces, and Mark Mothner photographed it and cleaned it and sent me this reference. And then this is also a pastel pencil on pastel matte paper. And with this one, the bottom is a little bit dark on the screen. I think the contrast is a little high on the photo I sent you. But I decided to leave the background completely black and just put a little mirroring of the mineral at the bottom. Similar, I believe, to the reference photo. And I don't know, that's just kind of what worked for me. I feel like this drawing was one of the most challenging drawings I've ever done. And the reason is because it's all one color. So there's so many subtle changes in the colors in this mineral that it kind of drove me crazy. Like it was just very hard to focus in on something that is all one color, but actually has a lot of different colors in it. So there was a lot of very tiny details and highs and lows, shadows, just little nooks and crannies, and a lot of color mixing had to go in to get this to be similar to the specimen. It probably came out a little more vivid than the actual specimen, but actually when I saw the videos from Munich, they actually looked pretty close together in the colors. So I was glad, because I was a little worried it was quite bright. But again, when you go off
and for anyone who hasn't seen what went on in Munich, it was a grand exhibit of mineral specimens on display right next to the artwork of that same specimen. So you would have been able to see this right next to a pedestal display case that held that specimen, and just superb.
Thank you, Brian. That was a fun one. I mean, the whole
to create this.
I'm sorry.
Rebecca, how long did it take you to create this?
Oh, gosh, this one was probably usually pastel pencils about 11 by 14 size take me about 15 to 20 hours of pencil to paper. So not that long, I guess, in the grand scheme of things.
Don't say that. Always double the amount of time it actually took you.
Yeah, I mean, and it probably was, because I also create custom mat boards for all of my artwork. So I always cut them to size. I hand paint them with texture as well. I like to have my art and my prints ready to frame for folks, so that when they get it ready to go, it's all set up with the aesthetic. They can change out mats if they want, but I kind of have an aesthetic that goes with the drawing, so I kind of like to set them up that way. So there is a lot of other time besides just drawing, and there's research. There's all of that goes into it too. So.
Oh, I love it. I think one thing that's really important about any piece of art is the way that it's presented, the way that it's framed, and for you to spend so much time paying such attention to the detail of the mat board really speaks well to what a finished commission from you would actually look like. It goes beyond just the piece of art here. And I keep catching myself because I want to say painting because I'm used to mineral artists doing paintings, but I keep trying to make sure, don't say painting because this isn't a painting. We're going to get to some of your paintings, but this again is is it correct to say pastel drawing?
Yes. And some people call them pastel paintings, so you're not entirely wrong there, Brian. But I do like to differentiate that I am drawing these with pencils because it's just, it's just different than paint for sure. But it's funny because people will call pastel art pastel paintings because I don't know why, but that is a thing.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. Let's go to another Munich piece here. And one thing I do want to mention is these things are printed in this book that's behind me. This is the Munich Show Art d'Object book that came out in 2023. Rebecca, I know that you have a copy with you right there, and maybe you can flip to your page, which I want to say is like 48 or something like that, 48 maybe.
86. This is the one we're going to discuss here.
Yeah. Look at that. Okay. So let's actually go to the painting and let everybody take a better look at that.
Yes.
Tell us about this.
This one is actually really exciting because so this is the first drawing that I was asked to do for the Munich Show. So Mark Mothner, who is the editor, the mineral art editor for Rocks and Minerals magazine, he reached out to me actually after the last Tucson show. He saw my work in Zach Bell's showroom and reached out to me to do an article, which I might as well say is going to be coming out at the beginning of this year. I don't know when, but it's probably next issue or two out. I will have an article in there, so I am really excited for that and extremely grateful. So anyway, so Mark then, we had connected already. We've been chatting, and he reached out to me asking if I would be interested in commissioning or in doing this piece for the Munich Show. Now, this is a piece that is in Mark's personal collection, and when I opened the photo he sent me, I almost just fell over because this specimen has been one of my all-time favorite specimens ever since I got the issue, which I have right here, of the mineralogical record, the Husky Mine edition. Let me move this. So I've actually been obsessed since I had this issue with that exact specimen on the cover. And I remember when I first saw this, I said, oh my gosh, one day I really would love to draw that. And I kind of got busy with commissions, so I really wasn't able to fit in some personal projects, but this was on my list. And then I opened that file and I was like, Mark, I've been wanting to draw this for years now, and of course I will. So I was just thrilled to be able to draw this for like a purpose and not just for fun, so it was so exciting. And just the invite to be a part of the Munich show, I mean, I was blown away. I was so excited. So that's actually kind of a funny little story about that piece in particular. And then, I had the best time rendering this. I mean, you can see it has every single color you could think of in there. So many teeny tiny details. I mean, it was kind of a brain buster, but I really, really enjoyed it. And I got kind of free with the background. And, the most important thing to me is that the client is happy, and Mark was really happy with it. And so that sealed the deal for me. And just to have it be in the Munich show is just legendary. So one of my favorites.
Well, it was a huge success, and big congratulations to you for being a part of that show. I want to go on to the next painting. But before I show the painting, I do want to mention, we had seen this earlier. This is the cover for the 2023 Mineral City Show Guide. And for the past 2 years, this being the third year, we've always, Blue Cap Production produces this, and Tama Higuchi is the one who does all the design on it. And she came up with the idea of doing an image where we have a painting or a piece of art and a photograph that's kind of reflected of each other on the cover of the show guide. So for 2024, for this year, Tama picked this piece, and I'm actually going to pull up the artwork that Rebecca did of this piece. And Rebecca, I'm going to invite you to talk to us about this aquamarine.
Of course. Yeah, I'm really thrilled to be able to have this work show up again on the cover of the Tucson show. That's so exciting. This was the last piece I was asked to render for the Munich show. And it was funny because Mark asked me about the Stephanite first, and that was the only piece I thought was going to come. And then next came Albert's piece, the fluorite that we saw. And I was like, oh, okay, sure. And it was just happened that I was on my summer break from work. So I was able to just turn these around for him. He was like, bring me another one. Do you have time for one more? And I was like, of course I do. Like, there's no way I'm going to say no to this. And, so this was the last of the 4 that was brought to me. And it was like crunch time. He was like, I don't even know if the piece is going to come, we're on a strict deadline. Like, can you turn this around in like a weekend? And I was like, yes, I can. And so I just worked nonstop getting this one together. And this was a huge challenge, those feldspars and the very subtle smoky quartz.
Mm-hmm.
But man, am I happy with this one? This is one of my favorites too, and I really enjoyed rendering it. And to see it next to the specimen, which is huge, blew my mind. I mean, you read like, oh, it's 23 centimeters, and you're like, oh, that's a big aqua. But then you see it in person, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like I can't even believe the size of this thing and how. I mean, it takes your breath away. The specimen in person. So it was interesting because normally I'm blowing up the minerals and making them bigger. And when I saw this, I was like,
this one you had to shrink it down.
Yeah, I was like, oh, it's so tiny next to it. But I still hope that the impact was there, but it was wonderful to get to render that one.
Absolutely. Okay, Rebecca, I want you to talk about this last aquamarine from the Munich show. Then we're going to go into a couple of your watercolors, and then I want to talk about your Tucson mural. So, viewers, we are going to go a little bit over an hour, but Rebecca, keep on doing your magic.
Okay, this one, I'm realizing now I actually sent you the first rendering of this one. So there is a story about this one, which is fun. So Mark sent me the reference, which is of the exact drawing you have here. And you can see there's a little crack running through the the aqua.
Right.
Well, so I apologize because I thought I sent you the newest version, but I didn't. But that's okay because now I can show you what happened. So, and he, Mark's dealing with this whole show, right? He's got a million things going on. He's trying to reach out to me and probably a million other artists to get everything arranged. So he sends this to me and I render it. I get it all finished and I send him a photo. And he says, I just heard from the collector and they're actually going to have the specimen repaired. So it's not going to look like that.
That's so funny.
I have in there is not going to be there. And he was like, is there any way that it could be fixed? I had actually already sent the artwork to him. I actually gave the artwork to Dan Mancano, who I'm going to talk about a little bit later. And he brought it to Denver to give to Mark in person. So Mark had the artwork. It was finished. At least I thought it was finished. And then that's when he reached out to me saying, they're going to repair it. And is there any way you could do the same thing to the drawing? And I was like, I think I can. So Mark sent it back to me. I took some time to repair it. Luckily, it's pastel pencil on pastel matte paper, so it's always movable.
Exactly. So you can do it. You can paint. I use in quotes on top.
Totally. Yes. So I was like, yes, I can. And I'd love the challenge. So that was the first time that I've ever rendered a mineral that then was repaired. And then I had to do the same repair to the drawing. So it was kind of a funny story. And, it ended up working out just fine. And now it's in the hands of the collector. So, yeah. So
I think I would dare to say you are the mineral artist version of MCP.
Sure. Yes.
Oh my God, that's a great story. All right, so far we've been looking at pastels, and I saw Tommy Armstrong made a comment that as long as it's pigment on a background, no matter how it's applied, it is a painting. So maybe that helps with the definition a little bit. So far we've seen the pastel, but I think these next two are watercolors. I want you to tell us about the specimen and tell us about your experience going from pastel to watercolor and what the differences are.
Yeah, most definitely. So this piece is actually a piece in my personal collection. This is a very special, if you know about this flora, you'll know right away. It's from Utah, from the Deer Trail mines, and I have the specimen right here. The color's a bit more rich in the painting itself, but in my reference it probably had a little more color to it, but it's very, very frosty. So this is the size of the specimen. It's looking pretty white in the camera here, but there is a lot of the blue greens. The fluorite color is under it has a quartz druzy shell. That's what gives it that look, luster. So this was one of the first watercolors that I ever did. And I actually had some struggles with this one that Tama helped me out with. I was still learning watercolor and I didn't think it through, I guess, before I did my grid and my sketch right on the actual paper that I was going to paint on. And I should have done a grid, drawn out my sketch, and then transferred it to the paper, because I started painting over the grid. And then when I was already a couple layers in, I realized this grid is not going anywhere. It's just going to show through. And I was like, what do I do? Like, I'd already put in a lot of work on this painting and I didn't want to scrap it. And I also didn't want it to just end up being, something I wasn't happy with. So I reached out to Tama and I was like, what do I do? I got my grid here. It's trapped behind the paint. And she gave me some tips that really helped. I ended up using a Q-tip with just a little bit of water and just dabbing the whole grid out from behind and then refilling in the paint. So
wow,
this painting for me. But yeah, I was just really obsessed with the Deer Trail. And I even put a tiny bit of wash paint, and I use a calligraphy pen to speckle that over the surface of some of the faces to give it that druzy texture to it. So if you see it in person, you can kind of see those little tiny details. And this
painting. Let me ask Eloise or Raquel to cut back to my camera so that we can see the painting again. There we go. And okay, so Rebecca, go ahead and where were the grid lines on this?
So the whole thing was literally gridded out with probably 2-inch grid lines, and that's an 11 by 14. So the whole thing had grids across everything, and I had already had like all the shadows. I basically had a whole layer of paint on there, so I had to just go through any of the lighter areas and use a Q-tip and remove that pencil line with water, just dabbing it off as I went, and then filling in the paint again. And then like all those little crusty textures, I use masking fluid, which is kind of like a sticky, it's like a sticky glue that rubs off after it dries. So you can use that to mark off certain areas on white watercolor paper so that when you paint over it just preserves the whites, and then you rub that masking fluid off and the whites are there shining. So I used a lot of that in those little tiny nooks and crannies so that I could freely paint over it and then come back with the detail and the gouache at the end.
Interesting.
Fun experiment. It was a challenge for sure.
All right, let's go to this next one, which is, again, I believe this is a watercolor. And Rebecca, you probably have a little window that just popped up. That's the poll. Go ahead and close just that window, not your Zoom interface, and tell us about this. This looks, I mean, just off the top of my head, just looking at this, it looks like you have advanced your technique. It's a much different kind of level of detail than we had with this one. So tell us about this.
Yeah, and definitely agreed there. I learned a lot from that one to this one. I did some tourmalines in between to sort of get the transparency feel of watercolor. And this one was in the Arkenstone collection. And I got permission to use the reference photo from them. It's an Oglaze piece from Ohio, and I got really obsessed with Ohio fluorite for a minute. I mean, it's still there, but you know how that goes.
Right.
Temporarily insane for Ohio for a little while. And this piece, when I saw the photo, I was like, I have to paint that. So, I really worked really slow with this one, just layering slowly. But the thing about watercolor is you got to paint a layer and you've got to walk away. You have got to let it dry. You know, you can't just keep adding. So it's a patience thing with this one. Again, I got in there. This is actually where I really utilized the calligraphy pen to get those tiny little specks and cracks in the fluorite to preserve those brights in those dark purples and maroon colors. I got some really teeny tiny brushes. I think I was probably hitting up Tama again, like any suggestions for brushes and stuff. You know, when I was doing watercolors, I was always bothering her with questions because she's the pro, you know. I had a really great time with this one. This one solidified a love for watercolor and just that I really wanted to experiment more. And I have plans for more watercolor in the future.
Okay, so Rebecca, tell me the difference that you found in using pastels versus watercolors, and how would you choose one medium over the other for future projects?
That is a great question. So it's usually the mineral that tells me what it wants to be, rendered in. Like that fluorite, it just had such beautiful transparency and I wanted it to be bright and white. So really, if I want something to have a white or a bright background, I'm going to go with a watercolor technique. Because with pastel, first off, the white version of the pastel matte paper that I love, for some reason, never works for me. I've done a couple drawings on it, and I don't know if it's just me or if it's the texture of the white in particular, but it doesn't grip the pencil the way I like it. And to fill in a white background gets a little muddy. If I were going to draw that in pastel and fill in the background with white, it wouldn't look crisp. It just wouldn't have quite the same feeling. So I would definitely pick watercolor if I were doing tourmalines, fluorites that have a lot of transparency, things like that. And then I want a bright white feel to the background. I would choose pastels are great for like opaque minerals, feldspars, really, but they're also great for quartz. So I can't, there's not a hard, fast rule, I guess. But if I want more of a moody feel or a darker background and like a rich velvety texture, I'm going to go pastel pencil.
Superb. Now, Rebecca, I'm going to ask you to turn around and pull that painting off the wall, if you can, that's behind your right shoulder, and talk to us about that painting, because that is the painting that, or I guess the source painting that you used to create the mural in Tucson. And then we're going to look at some of the photographs of you working in Tucson.
Hey, so actually this one here is the very first test painting I did for the mural. Hang on, I got a little gem tack on here. Because,
Sorry to be wrecking your art room there.
It's okay. So this is actually the very first acrylic painting that I did to practice for the mural. It's just a blown up section of the specimens. First off, because I knew I had to blow this thing up to be gigantic. So I, of course, blew this up to this size. I got a bunch of wood for one of my coworkers who has a wood shop. So he cut me a bunch of panels for free, which was awesome to do my practice on. Because again, I just started acrylic painting to do this mural so that I could learn what the heck I was going to do.
Wow. Okay. So pastel, watercolor, now we're into the acrylics.
Yeah. So now we're in acrylic, and I actually did a couple of like small little paintings first just to figure out what I was doing with acrylic paints. And then this was my first practice with the mural content. And then the green lines are all spray paint, which I ended up actually painting them with a roller brush on the real mural. So that's that little cut of the practice. And then I can show you this other one. Come on, Gem Tack. It's working.
Hey, it works great.
Tack, it does everything. So this was the full layout, practice layout. Again, I did spray paint for the lines. This is all just brushwork on the specimens. You can see it a little better. This was a quick practice. I was trying to move quickly because I'm really used to the fiddling and fussing and taking forever with my stuff. And this one, I was like, okay, I've got 5 days to paint this giant mural. I got to learn how to just lay the paint down, slap it on. So that's what this practice was for. It was just to let go and just get the paint on there. And I had a lot of fun with it, actually. And now I love that I have 3 mediums at least that I can go back to or use whenever I feel like. And there definitely are benefits to all 3 mediums, I think.
Okay, well, at the risk of repeating a question I asked you before, talk to me about, it's pretty much the same question. When would you choose acrylic over pastels, over watercolors?
That is a good question, and something that I think I would have to think about because the only reason I was choosing acrylic was because I had to practice. But now I've found a new love for acrylic. So, I mean, I guess it would remain to be seen because I haven't ever yet seen a mineral and been like, oh, I'm going to do that in acrylic. But now all I can think about is the next mural that I want to do. And I want to bust out those acrylics and I want to get the spray paints out and go to town. So I think maybe when I do something larger scale, that's when I would be looking for my acrylics again.
Interesting. Okay. Terrific. Let's cut to some of the photographs that were taken while you were doing the mural painting in Tucson. And this again is in what we're dubbing the art corridor at Mineral City, and this is the corridor or alleyway. I don't want to call it an alleyway, but the passageway between buildings A and B and C and D. So you can see the two previous murals that are there in the background. And this is you in the foreground doing this. This is, how tall is this?
The top probably ends about 20 feet. So
no, I'm sorry, in centimeters. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Keep going. Just.
My God, in centimeters? Are you trying to kill me? So the wall itself is 24 by 20 feet, which I didn't realize was so huge until I got there and I looked up at the wall and I was like, oh my gosh, this is no joke.
Super.
Yeah, and I went almost to the very top. Graham had the black painted for me ahead of time. I kind of reached out mid-process and I was like, is there any way that we can get the wall based out? Because that's going to be a whole day, at least a whole day to get that black up, which I don't have. So he graciously got a professional painter to come and spray that. So I can't take credit for the black background. But everything else I painted by hand or with spray paint on that one. So yeah, it's a big one.
Okay, I'm gonna roll a video here, and I don't think we have audio on it, but maybe you can do a live narration as we're watching, explaining what you're doing. So there we go.
So in this video, I'm definitely panicking because it is literally probably 3 hours until I have to go to the airport to fly home. And I am not finished. Okay. This is crunch time. We'd already extended our trip another day so that I could get it done because I had a lot of struggles along the way to get this thing done. So this is me putting some layers on these stripes and adding some of the spray paint details there. Oh, hey, Rick. Yeah, so really, I started with the lines and then I'm masking out those edges, painting in those blocks, and then adding the spray paints with my homemade stencils. I ended up making stencils day 3 and kind of having a spray paint inspiration kind of late in the process. Which I'm so grateful for because it really helped me get this thing done in time and with the effect that I wanted. So here's more line work. That's pretty much the top of where I was. That's probably the height and then the middle of the crystal there. So yeah, just blocking in more of those stripes, panicking, but trying not to panic because I knew I was running out of time.
Absolutely fabulous. And so here's a shot of you actually using spray paint. As I'm understanding, spray paint wasn't originally in the plan, but it became a tool that you had to use once you were in progress. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the spray paint came about in a weird way. So there's little parts of that amethyst that have these bright neon pink flashes, very tiny little details in some of the crystals. And I just could not get those with the flat latex paints. There's just no neon brightness to those paints, right? They're very flat. And I had to have that color. So I remember seeing this neon pink spray paint in the hardware store. And I was like, okay, I got to go get that paint. I got that paint and a couple more. And I added those details. It was kind of late in the day. Added some of those details, and then I was like, oh, this is working for me. I was like, holy cow, this is giving me like those soft textures and like wispy, inclusions. It just seemed to click as like the perfect finisher for these crystals. And the story that night, we'd worked so late into the night, and Graham Sutton, who is part owner of Mineral City, who offered me this commission to do the mural and brought me out there and everything. He had warned me not to leave anything out at night. Don't leave anything out at night. When you leave, everything has to be put away. Someone will steal it, right?
Yep. Yep.
So we were so tired. I could barely see straight. And we were like, okay, let's just put a few of the paints. Like, who's going to steal a half-used, pint of paint? We put a couple of things on our scaffolding, rolled it behind the locked gate that has barbed wire all over the top of it. Sure enough, the next morning came, and I'm like, gosh, where's my box of brushes? I had left my box with every brush I had, all my small tools on that cart, and someone made it a point to climb the fence just to take that box. They didn't take anything else off of there. They didn't touch the paints. They didn't touch anything. Just the little black box that was so mysterious that had every paintbrush that I had and all my small tools.
Well, what you don't know is that was actually Graham who stole the box. He was just trying to prove his point.
No, he's like, I told you not to leave that out. Yeah, and I did. He did give me the look. He was like, I told you not to do
that. Right. I told you so.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't intentional. And yeah, it was a rude awakening. That's the day I decided, okay, I have to stay an extra day. There's just no way. I had to go rebuy all the brushes. But it was then that I thought, you know what? I'm going to use this spray paint to my advantage. It was sort of a time in the morning when I didn't have my brushes. I couldn't go get the brushes yet, and I had to make do. So I started using the spray paints more, and then I was just like, this is it. This is what I got to do. And so I was like, okay, got on the Home Depot app, got all my spray paints lined up, went and bought 1 million spray paints, and then I literally finished the whole mural with spray paint in the end. And it really brought it all together for me. It gave me that realism feel, but still gave me the freedom to add some abstractness to it and add a little more color here and there. And yeah, I ended up late into the night hand cutting a bunch of stencils that got me all those like whispery textures. I did a bunch of them, and that was super exciting. I love getting re-inspired in the middle of a project, and that's exactly what the spray paint did for me with the mural project.
No, I love it. I mean, I think it's kind of these areas in here that you can see were the spray paint, and I don't know how you could have done that without using the spray paint. I'm going to show a couple more images of some of the detail here, and just Rebecca, I cannot wait till I get into Tucson and actually get a chance to put my real eyeballs on these things. And you did such a superb job. That's the final picture we're going to close with, you standing next to the piece to give people a sense of scale. You are, I will say you are, I've never met you in person, but I'm going to guess that you are of average height. So I think that's a pretty good sense of how big this is and how monumental it's going to be. I expect to see this all over social media come January and February.
Oh, well, I hope people enjoy getting selfies in front of it. You'll have to back up to get it, but yeah, it's there. And it's crazy because I literally looked at it for like 1 second when it was done and then was shoved into an Uber to get to the airport with like 30 seconds to spare before my bags were checked late. That's how
I love that part of the story. And some of me wonders what it would have looked like if you had all the I guess my camera got shut off there.
I still hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. So I would have loved to see what the final piece would have looked like had you had more time, but I actually love the story more of you being able to take a final look at that for only a minute or two before you had to rush off to the airport. So I think it speaks so strongly of you as an artist not having enough time and still producing something that's so outstanding.
Thank you, Brian. And yeah, it was kind of funny because at the end, Graham was like, "She did it," and he was filming me, and I was like, "Oh, you know what I didn't do is sign it." I almost left
right.
it, and so he got that little tidbit on video, which was probably special. I'm sure I was just like,
I saw that video because he posted that on social media, and you were so exhausted, but you were signing it, trying to get the letters right, and he was kind of
right. I don't know.
Exactly right. All right, Rebecca, we are 11 minutes past the hour, which is fine because now we are going into our Quickfire 5 segment of the show. I think you know how this works. I have 5 questions. Each question has 2 answers. Audience has seen all the questions, and they have already chimed in to predict how you're going to answer. So I'm going to read you the questions with the 2 answers. You're going to respond. Tell me which one you kind of gravitate, which answer you gravitate towards the most. And all of your answers are correct. We're going to see how well our viewing audience did. Are you ready?
I can't get them wrong then. Okay, good. Low pressure.
That's right. There is no wrong answer for you. Okay, question number 1. What kind of animal person are you? Are you a cat person or a dog person?
Oh, this one's super clear for me. So I answer.
You
now?
answer. Yes.
I am definitely a cat person. I have a cat. I'm cat obsessed. I just am obsessed with a cat I just saw online that needs a home, even though I shouldn't take another cat, but I want that cat. Yes, I love all animals. I do love dogs. I've had dogs before, but I am through and through a cat person. I can't deny it.
100% a cat person. I know Eloise is a strong cat person also, so you're in good company. Okay, question number 2. Favorite mineral to draw/collect, fluorite or wolfenite?
Oh, man. Oh, gosh.
Oh, I didn't say they were going to be easy.
I know. See, I was expecting easy. Oh, my gosh. Okay. I mean... Okay, I'm going to attack this one from a practical standpoint as I look at my wolfenite collection, and then I have flats of fluorite. So, and I've probably drawn more fluorite, so I guess I'll say fluorite. I'm sorry, wolfenite. I love you just as much.
Okay, all right.
So has been more common, and I have more fluorite in my collection. So, fluorite wins, as usual.
Okay, this is a tough one, okay? So... Oh, it's good that you're seated. Favorite day. Okay. Favorite day in October, October 19th or Brian's birthday?
And this is like a trick question or something. I would say definitely Brian's birthday.
Oh, you are so sweet. I love you. Well, it is a trick question. Brian's birthday is October 19th, which I also know is your birthday. So
winning. Aw. Year's different, right? I'd say.
Oh, maybe one or two.
Fine. That's so fun. I never meet people with that birthday.
Totally. It's so rare. I think I only know of like one other person other than you that has that birthday in the mineral world, and I'm forgetting who that is right now.
Well,
we'll figure it out. Okay. Yeah. Question number 4. Your most recent investment, NFT, which is a non-fungible token, or sheets?
No, definitely sheets. I don't even know what an NFT. I mean, I should know. My niece tried to explain this to me a million times. I was just like, I don't get it. So that's aging me too. I'm sorry. I just can't. I can't with that. I want a good set of sheets. Definitely over NFTs.
You and I are in the same boat. I don't understand NFTs either. So
it's like, I can't.
Okay. Final question. What would you rather? Would you rather teach forever or paint forever?
Oh, that is okay. What if I come at you with a weirdy answer and say I would love to teach painting and art?
Ooh.
That way I could do both.
Okay, that's the first time we have a both answer that is acceptable to the Mineral Talks Live team. All right. We have all the answers. Eloise, do we have the response from the viewers?
Yes, we do.
Super. Okay. For question number 1, we asked Rebecca what kind of animal person you are, cat or dog person. Without hesitation, she went to a cat person. What did our viewers say?
And I'm very happy to report that a lot of people mentioned cats. Yes, she's a cat person.
Cat person. Dynamite.
Nice.
Okay, question number 2. This was actually a really tough one. Favorite mineral to draw, collect, fluorite or wolfenite? After a little bit of hand wringing, Rebecca went with fluorite. What did our viewers say?
Fluorite indeed, yes.
Wow, nice.
Fluorite tonight.
Personally, I would have gone with wolfenite, but that's fascinating. Okay, our trick question for the day, favorite day in October, October 19th, or Brian's birthday, which is also October 19th. She went with Brian's birthday, which makes her so one of my favorite people. What did the viewers say?
Well, it's Brian's birthday, right? So anyway, so our viewers are right. Whatever happens.
Doesn't matter what they said. The answer is correct for the viewers.
The answer is correct. Yeah.
They don't know that date has any other significance, really.
Exactly. Your most recent investment, NFTs or sheets? Rebecca went with sheets.
Yeah.
What do the viewers say?
Sheets, yes, of course.
Whoa.
Sheets, yes, of course. Yes.
And our 5th question, we don't even need an answer because anyone who answered the 5th question got it correct. So 5 out of 5. Right. It's been a while since we've had that. Congratulations, Rebecca.
Congrats to the viewers. They're the real winners because I threw them tricky answers there. So
I love it. All right,
well,
now
Rebecca,
we're going to go into our
Q&A
section.
Wait. Just one thing. I promise you, Rebecca, one thing is that with Raquel, the first thing we're going to do when arriving in Tucson is that we're going to drive to the mural and take a selfie of us in front of your mural and send it to you. That's going to be the first.
And I do want to say real quick that I will have a limited amount of mural prints available at the Tucson show. They'll all be hand signed with authenticity, and it's going to be a very limited batch of 11 by 14 prints there. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, check it out. Find them while you're in Tucson. I'm going to have them in some showrooms and maybe a special display. More to come on that.
Okay. So
Rebecca, actually,
do we know where they're going to be, or we're kind of still?
So I'm still working with Graham to figure that out. We may have a central case, possibly near the Stope or something with some merchandise. We're still working out those details. I will have work in Zach Bell's showroom again. I know that for sure. So check out Zach Bell's showroom. I'm going to have some probably original artwork in there, as well as prints for sale and stickers. And same with another display. I'm still working those details out. Sorry, I don't have exacts yet, but I will be posting about that soon. So
okay. And then for those who are unaware, the Stope is the new kind of lounge hangout area in Mineral City in building, I believe it's building D, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So show guide will be coming out soon. And I believe the maps are already up. So just check out Mineral City. You'll find the Stope and you can go there. There's going to be beer, wine, mineralogical record is going to be housed there now. And they're going to have some display cases and some mineral artifacts or mining artifacts. So check out the Stope at Mineral City and look for Rebecca's artwork there also.
Okay, Rick Kennedy saw the mural already. He was very excited. It's like the first thing that he said, like, I think he connected just for you tonight because he's like, okay, I loved it and I saw it. It's just awesome. And he's confirming that it's going to be in Building D indeed. Thanks, Rick, for the information. Great. Looking forward to seeing it. Okay, I think we have some questions. Raquel, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. I'll start. I'm going by how they came. So the first one is by Colin. So Rebecca, have you tried mixed media, watercolors and pencils or ink together?
I have actually. I've done a lot of mixed media with like foils, pencil, paint. Actually, that's kind of where I came from, was a lot of mixed media. I would do pen, collage, even fabrics, inks. I've done calligraphy as well. So I'm pretty much obsessed with all mediums, and I do love bringing them together. I kind of broke away with the realism a little bit from mixed media, but now I'm bringing it back where I combine, say, watercolor with then some gouache. And actually that alpine fluorite painting I did that was shown earlier actually does have some gouache to pop those white highlights on there. So I'm starting to mix my mediums a little bit more nowadays, and I actually used to do that a lot before I started doing realism. So stay tuned for more mixed media, actually.
Nice one. And from Jim, what do you use to stop the wall painting from fading over time in the hot Tucson sun?
Oh, that is a good question. Actually, Graham is setting up the painter to come back, and he's going to have them spray all 3 of those murals with a UV coating and a graffiti coating. So it's like a special coating that prevents it from fading and from graffiti. So yay for all the murals.
Very cool. Do you have any training in crystallography or crystal classification systems?
I do not have any training. I'm just self-taught just by, getting into the mineral scene and starting to collect and learn from professionals and reading mineral magazines and things. So all self-taught as it comes to that, and still a lot to learn from me, I'd say.
Very cool. From Matthew, I know your mediums are holy, but have you ever tried digital art?
I have actually, and I actually recently have been doing a lot of Procreate work. I actually, in the Tucson catalog coming out, I did some artwork for the Stope. There's 2 pages in there about the Stope, and those were all created with hand line drawing, and then all the color was added through Procreate digital. So yeah, I'm more into that. I actually just got an updated iPad and an Apple Pencil. So I have major plans for doing more digital artwork in the future.
Very cool.
I love digital and graphic design too. So,
and the last one from the round, with the pastel paper, does it come in black, or do you fill in the background with black?
I fill in the backgrounds with black. Usually a very specific black pastel pencil is my favorite, and I actually prefer to have a toned color as my background to start with so that I can see my blacks and my whites as I'm laying down color. So typically I'll pick like a dark gray or a dark blue background, and then I always fill in with my blacks.
That's all the questions we got.
Thank you for the questions. Great
Thank
questions.
you. Thank you so much. That was really exciting. It was really fun. Brian, I'm sorry we missed you for a few seconds in there. We panic, but it was really good. Thank you.
Well, I know you ladies, and I'll check the recording, but I know you ladies did a good job in picking up the slack. So thank you. And that's why we call you the Angels.
Are the Angels.
For many reasons.
Rebecca, can I say a few things if you don't mind?
Yes.
I think that's what you've been doing is different from the other artists that we saw, especially with the mural painting that you had there, and with the lines and with the different concepts. So I think it's really exciting that you spread out, like you do the micros and then the very arts and very truthfully the beautiful photos of the objects, and then you do the micro, and then you get back to the big picture and you combine several things. And this is just really amazing how diverse your work is. And I'm sorry I won't see you in Tucson this year, but I hope that in 2025 we'll finally meet you. I'm really looking forward to everything, and don't hesitate to send us all the information regarding the products that you're going to have in Tucson. We put in the chat as well your shop online that people can see other aspects of your works. I love the fact that you sell the samples with the paintings as well.
Yeah, I do have a few, like I have some mini watercolors that come with the specimens. Yeah. I still have a few. I did a collection for Seattle Mineral Market with those last year, and I'll be making more. So yeah,
that's awesome.
I love to have them together. Of course, it's not always possible, but when I can, I will.
No, that's great. That's great. So yeah.
Rebecca, one other thing I want to mention is you've done online live art classes, and you prepared little art kits for everyone who's been attending. Do you plan to do that again in the future?
Yes, in fact, so this year I'm hoping that I will be able to actually finally leave my full-time job. Bye-bye. And
Yay!
So fingers crossed. I am really, really, really hoping to become a self-employed artist and run with my business. I'll probably start with like part-time work somewhere while I can actually hone in on my business. But yes, I plan to teach way more classes in the future. I had such a great time doing the demo. It's on my YouTube, which is a little dusty. I need to fix up my YouTube for sure. But I also, that kind of segues me into something I don't want to forget to mention, which is my upcoming collaboration with Mineral Nation. And Brian, I know you know a bit about this with Dan Mancano.
This is with Dan.
Yeah, so this is coming up, and I'm going to be actually one of the hosts of one of the new podcasts coming out of Mineral Nation, which if you don't know about Mineral Nation, you got to check them out, mineralnation.com. It's an online platform meant to educate, organize, and preserve. So it's all for us people in the mineral community and for people who are just getting into minerals. It's going to be a very vast platform to learn all things mineral related. And I will be one of the hosts of the Mineral Art Maestros podcast, where I'll be interviewing other mineral artists, doing collaborations, showing us, giving all of our advice, tips, doing demos. So we have a lot of fun things planned. There's going to be about 8 podcasts going on right now. We've got the Minsanity podcast with Phil Person, Fine Minerals Conservatives with Dave Weissman. We got Inside the Pocket with Ian Shrimpful and Jason Royce. The Display Zone with Enrico Rinaldi. Sorry, there's a few names. And then also the Mineral Photography podcast hosted by Mark Mouthner. So we've got a lot coming up. There's a few more coming and hopefully more podcasts joining the network. So stay tuned for that fun stuff as well.
Well, thank you for bringing that up, because they started their first podcast at last year's Denver show, and I did a quick video of them, and Phil Person was interviewing John Rakovan, and it was a wonderful, wonderful idea. I love the idea that they're building on it, that they're going to have an artist specific podcast hosted by you. Fantastic stuff. So keep checking out mineralnations.com, and we need more content like this. So I'm thrilled that Dan has thrown his hat in the ring and that he's doing this, and he's being very active about this. And I'm a big fan and supporter of what they're doing.
Yay, that's so great, Brian. And thanks to you. I mean, you really started the whole wave of bringing people together and getting this kind of thing out into the community and making it accessible for all of us. So hats off to you.
Well, thank you. I'll make one correction. It was actually Raquel and Eloise's idea. They came to me and pitched me on it. I initially turned it down, but they convinced me to do this. And so Mineral Talks Live was born from that. So they deserve all the recognition for making this thing happen.
Yes. Yay. Thank you so much. The dream.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you. That was awesome. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. This is just great.
All right. Well, thank you again for being on the program. For all you viewers out there, make sure to tune in on our next Mineral Talks Live, which I believe is February 1st. And we will be broadcasting, the three of us will be broadcasting live from the Blue Cap Production Studio at the Tucson Fine Mineral Gallery. And it's going to be a great show. So February 1st, it'll be right in the middle of Tucson. And we love those because it's pretty much the only time the three of us are able to get together and do a show physically in person. So it's fun. It's got a different energy, and we hope to see you then. Until then, again, Happy New Year to all. Have a great January. We'll see you in 1 month. Take care.